everyone, my name is Gabby, and as you all can tell, I am back from my first semester of college. It's been a really busy year, so for today's video, I decided that I wanted to do something a little bit more relaxed and casual. I made myself a cup of tea, and I thought that I would take some time to talk about my first semester in college, to talk about this really wild year, and to sort of wrap up the decade for all of you before filming some other videos in which I talk about some of the media and content that I've been watching this year that I've really enjoyed, and talk about some of the books that I've been reading, and sort of end the year on that note. But before I do that, I wanted to have more of a casual discussion just because I feel like a lot of things have changed since the last time I filmed a type of video like this. In 2019, I graduated high school and I started college, so this year feels like the perfect year to end the decade on because it was the end of old things and the beginning of new things, and I feel like I've grown and changed a lot as a person. Namely, I just think I've become a lot happier and much more confident, and I think a large part of that is because of the college that I attend. So I am a first year student at Columbia College, Chicago. I am a broadcast journalism major and a social media and digital strategies minor. So the reason why I say I'm a first year student is because technically as of now, with my fall semester ending, I have enough credits to be a sophomore, but I still don't consider myself a sophomore because technically I'm a freshman because it is my first year. So I'm having like a whole bunch of conflict as to like what do I call myself. So when I say first year student, basically like this is my first year in college, my first semester of college. Although I have enough credits to be a sophomore because of all the AP tests that I took in high school and the credit that I earned from those AP tests. Anyway, Columbia has been fantastic, and I could not ask for a better school to go to. When I was applying to colleges, there was this thing that I went through where I really wasn't sure what school I was going to go to and what would be best for me. I only applied to 4 schools: Northwestern, Notre Dame, Emerson in Boston, and Columbia. And ultimately, my heart felt like it was set on Columbia. There was just something in me that knew that that was going to be the school for me. But I still applied to other schools because I didn't want to just apply to Columbia because that would be bad. I just feel like people usually apply to more than one school, and 4 schools is relatively slim. Most people apply to many more than that. Before high school, there was a part of me that thought I would be going to Northwestern, and that would be the school that I would go to because I was really smart and my grades were good. I should be going to a smart school. And that's not to say that Columbia isn't a smart school, but it's to say that I would be going somewhere that was known for its academic rigor. And Columbia just isn't that school, and that's okay because I've gotten so many things at Columbia that I know I wouldn't have gotten at any other school, and that's sort of where this story is going. Some of my family members, I feel like, felt disappointed that I was looking to go to Columbia rather than Northwestern because they saw me at Northwestern because of my smarts. And this isn't to sound arrogant, but it's to say that I value my academic accomplishments and achievements. Like, that's the one thing that I felt like I had going for myself because I'm not in a lot of sports or activities. Like, I focus on my grades and my studies. Like, that's the thing I value and put most of my effort into, more so than anything else. So naturally, I would want to go to a college that would allow me to continue that pursuit. But one of the things that I've realized, especially after ending my first semester at Columbia, is that high school was killing me. I was miserable, and I don't think I really had that realization until I was at Columbia doing all these exciting things and being in the city where I had all these opportunities to talk to so many interesting people and do so many exciting things. I just realized that high school and the experience that I had there was not cutting it for me. For the most part, my high school experience was memorize information, regurgitate it for this test, then regurgitate it for an AP test, and regurgitate it for the final. And all I was doing was memorizing information, get an A on the test, move on to the next thing. And it didn't feel like I was getting a lot out of school or my assignments or my education, which is really unfortunate because it shouldn't be that way. School should be enjoyable. You should feel like you're learning something. You should feel like there's a purpose and a reason for being there. That started to change during my junior year. I had to go through a lot of hell, and that I bombed several of my AP Physics tests, like getting 33%, 40% on tests because I just had no idea what I was doing, and that absolutely killed me. And I was just so miserable because I'd never bombed tests that hard ever. And I realized that being at Columbia, it's a school that is the antithesis to that. It's not like you're learning out of a textbook. A lot of it is real world application. It's hands-on. It's very artistic and creative. It's about making sure you understand concepts but in a real world way, because these are lessons and things that are going to help you in your career, in the field that you're going to go into, and it's just important things for you to know. It feels very practical because you are learning from people who have experience in the field and have worked in their fields of interest that you are going to be going into for years. And so they have so many valuable life lessons, so many connections that are so important to you as a student. And so you're just there seeping up as much knowledge and advice and guidance as possible. And all the professors that I've had at Columbia this semester were phenomenal, and I feel like I learned so much from them, and it made my experience so much more worthwhile because it felt like I was finally getting something out of my education. I was taking classes where my perspective on things were entirely shift, and for me that felt so different than high school, where it felt so intense and memorize this information and get a good grade and take all AP classes because you're smart enough to take all AP classes, and it felt like it was just shoving this academic rigor down your throat, and I could not do that anymore. So I couldn't see myself at a Northwestern or a Notre Dame. I got into Emerson, and I just knew that going far away it would be too expensive and that it wouldn't be practical for me, and so I ended up at Columbia. And I'm very glad that I did, because I have had the best first semester of college ever, and I've talked to so many of my other friends, and they really haven't had a lot to say about their college experiences. They're in huge lecture halls. Some of them struggled in their classes. Others of them went home every weekend and were just kind of bored, didn't really make a lot of friends. And for me, I'm getting to do so many cool things in the city. I've made friends with so many people, and I've learned so much and grown a lot as a person. I just feel more confident and more excited about my future, and just more hopeful about the fact that I'm going to be successful and I'm going to find a job doing what I love, and that I'm going to meet lots of really interesting people, and I'm going to continue to grow and learn and be inspired by the world and the people around me. Like, I'm just absolutely glowing. And again, I haven't felt that way for so long that, like, having these realizations has made me so happy and so thrilled to be in a creative place where I'm allowed to grow and thrive and be my own person and have conversations with people who come from completely different backgrounds than I do, but we still respect each other. We're still interested in what the other person has to say, and it's a very wonderful environment to be in. I just can't ask for anything more perfect. And so this year feels like the perfect year to end the decade on, because it is all about ending all the old things and the things that brought me stress and anxiety and felt overwhelming, and on to the new things that give me hope and give me excitement and give me joy and give me enthusiasm and push me to work harder and to be the best version of myself. So I want to talk about one of my classes that I really enjoyed this semester, which was my television production class. So I'm going to start at the very beginning of the summer in which I signed up for this class. So I originally wasn't going to take this class. I didn't know that I needed to take it as a freshman until I got an email from my academic advisor, and so I dropped a math class that I was going to take this class so I would have enough room in my schedule. And originally my professor was someone who was a lot older. It made me really worried because this class was all hands-on, working with equipment. I just did not think that would be up my alley, because everything that I've always done is memorize and regurgitate information out of a textbook. I've never really done a lot of hands-on learning, so the idea of that made me very nervous, and having a professor that was older also made me feel a little bit trepid. A few weeks go by and my professor changes to someone much younger, and I'm like, okay, cool, we'll see how this goes. Then I get into class. First week, it's the last class of the week for me, and immediately I'm like, oh no, because our professor goes and lectures and talks about all these things that I've never heard of and is just spitting out information. I'm having to frantically take notes, and I just felt very, very overwhelmed. I will say this. My professor is terrible at lecturing. A large part of that is because he has so much experience in the field doing so many things that he teaches his classes as if they know all of the information already. So Columbia is not a school where you learn out of textbooks, and the professors don't teach out of textbooks, and most of them aren't very good at it, if I'm gonna be real honest. They're much better at real world application. So the first few weeks kind of sucked because a lot of it was lecturing, and our professor sort of even came off the bat and told us that. He was also the same professor that said, when we take take tests and quizzes. Like, if you don't know something, ask, I'll give you the answer, because that way you can learn, I can explain it, and that way I don't have to grade it and mark it up in red pen. Makes my life easier, makes your life easier. Same professor who also ordered pizzas for us multiple times throughout the semester in class. Cool guy, but not the best at lecturing. The minute that all the lectures were finished and we actually started working on productions and started to get hands-on with the equipment is the minute that this class became a lot more fun and exciting. I was still very nervous at first initially, and as I started to get up into the booth and started to work with the equipment, I started to realize that this was actually kind of fun and that everything was actually relatively easy once you got the hang of it. Yeah, the class became a lot more fun and I became a lot more engaged and interested in what was going on, and I felt a lot more confident in myself as I started to work with some of the equipment. Really, I think the defining moment for me in this class was when I got to visit the studio that my professor works at. We got a full-length tour, so we got to see all the facilities within the studio, and then we got to sit on the floor and watch the news production be taped live, and in 2s and 3s, groups of us were brought up into the audio booth where all the audio is controlled for the production, and the technical booth where the technical director is calling up all the shots for the show, where all the producers are sitting, where the director is sitting, and you're getting to see the show essentially be put together, where it's put together. And that was so cool. We got to talk to the talent on the floor, we got to talk to a camera operator, floor directors, we got to talk to a DJ who's on the show. It was just amazing because it made me realize this is a space that I could be working in someday, and that was really exciting. Afterwards, me and a group of 6 of my other friends in my television production class decided to go out to breakfast because we had gotten up, or at least I got up at like 3 in the morning to be at the studio at 5 in the morning. So I hadn't eaten breakfast. I wanted something to eat. I planned on doing this, but some extra people tagged along. We went to a place that our professor recommended us. We all decided to add each other on Snapchat. We made a group name for ourselves, and that moment for me felt so fulfilling because it felt like I'm finally making college friends. This is what I've wanted for so long, and here it is. And there's people that come from completely different backgrounds than I do, come from completely different walks of life, have different morals and values and thoughts on the world, but they still respect me as a human being, and we can have interesting and engaging conversations, and I just loved that. And at the end of the semester, we all got t-shirts made with our group name on it and with our names on the back of the shirts, and it was so corny and ridiculous, but it felt like I have a group of friends now, and we're gonna be friends hopefully throughout the rest of college and into our adult lives. And not a lot of my other friends in high school have found that. It just felt like another moment for me of fulfillment. I'm in the place where I should be and in a class that I thought would be really terrifying for me, but easily became one of my favorite classes of the semester because I had such a really good group of people that I was working with. So the 7 of us in our group only made up half the class. There was 14 kids in my class. The other 7 were absolutely wonderful as well. They just happened to not join us for breakfast, so they ended up not a part of the group. Like, that's just unfortunate. But everyone worked together really well and was really cooperative, and when it came to actually putting productions together, everyone took on their assigned role and was helpful and did what they needed to do as long as there was somebody who was providing clear direction. It was amazing to see these productions come together once we actually started doing them. Our final that we put on was a 1950s holiday special. So for our final, we colored all the cameras in black and white. We put up a whole bunch of walls around the studio to give them more of a homey feel. We had a couch brought in. We had a fully lit Christmas tree that was decorated with ornaments. We had a fireplace. We had all different sorts of audio going on. We had a talent who came fully dressed as a police officer because our Christmas special turned into like a murder mystery halfway through. We had our talent baking and wrapping presents and doing a craft and writing Christmas cards. It just was so elaborate and so much fun to put together, and there was a moment where I sort of stepped back and realized that I had made this. Like, this was something of my own creation that I had helped put together, and something that started as a mere idea a few weeks ago became a reality, and a very fully fledged out one at that. Like, our production was super elaborate, and even talking to my professor about it afterwards, he said that it was one of the most ambitious things that he had ever seen any of his classes ever put on. That to me felt very gratifying. Furthermore, I ended that class with 100%, which, like, I've never been able to do that, ever. And I think it just goes to show that I am in the right place where I'm able to grow and thrive and able to learn and enjoy myself while still getting good grades and while still just feeling confident and having fun. Granted, along the way, I did have some stress in this class because I had 100% for so long and I wanted to maintain it, especially because it felt practical, and it was. So my professor joked with me along the way, and I think this class really felt like the end of this chapter for me about obsessing with letter grades. Since the beginning of high school, I've always been very neurotic about my grades. I've always wanted to get all A's. I've always been obsessed with either an A or a B. Like that, you don't get a C. And I got a C my junior year of high school in my AP physics class, and that felt like the death of me. I had like an existential crisis where I looked in the mirror and I had absolutely no idea who I was anymore because I just valued my grades so much because that was all I had. Like I wasn't in sports, I wasn't in a lot of clubs or activities where I was a main person. I a lot of times was just sort of there. And so my grades were where I gotten all of my awards and recognitions and acknowledgments. So if I'm getting a C in a class, like all of that goes out the window. And so it was something that I was just obsessed with. Really, my junior year was the beginning of like, you have to get over this. You're so much more than a letter on a piece of paper. But you know, during my senior year, I was still had some issues, some bumps along the way, and being at Columbia now, I'm in a space where letter grades are like so arbitrary, like nobody cares, and you're in a space where it's about like enjoy your class and the things that you're learning because nobody really cares about what grade you get. Although ideally you want to do well, and I'm still going to do well in assignments, but it's because I want to learn and I want to get something out of my education and I want to perform well and I want to be able to prove that I have the skills that I need to be able to go into the workforce and be able to succeed at my career of choice, at my major of choice. It's nice to have that and to be able to have fun in my classes and to not feel like a grade is what my professors are looking at. They're more so looking at my work ethic and my dedication, and I'm realizing that tools and the traits that I have to get me to those grades are more important than the grades themselves. It just feels good to be able to close the chapter on that book and to be able to move on and be able to just enjoy my education because I haven't had that in such a long period of time, and it just feels like such an immense amount of growth from where I was before. Also, I feel like Columbia really allowed me to have access to the things that I was most concerned about. I had really two trepidations coming in to college. One of them is the thing that honestly is most important to me, is having a relationship with my professors or educators. That's something that I was really big on in high school. I think really, again, my junior year was like a big year for me in high school because it just when lots of change and like life questions started to pop up. It felt like a big existential crisis year for me. And one of the things I really began to value was the relationships I have with my teachers. And I mean, I've always valued that, but junior year felt like a big year for that because like my teacher is what got me through my AP physics class. Like if I had had a teacher that didn't care, that didn't work with me, like I would have dropped out of that class so quick. But I had a professor that was willing to work with me, and that changed everything for me, and it made me really value the relationship I have with my educators in the classroom because they're what allow me to be successful, to feel like I can thrive, to have conversation, to have someone that I can come to and talk to if I feel like I can't talk to my parents, if I just feel like I want to talk about what it is that's going on inside my head in terms of discussions or things that we're having in class. It's just a nice outlet to have. And so for me, I've always valued it, and I've always valued the work that my teachers put into each lesson plan they prepare and the way that they teach and mold their classes. And I wanted that in college, and I feared that I wouldn't get it because professors have jobs and a life and they like don't really care about their students. Like there was just all of these questions that popped up in my mind of like what a traditional college experience is and how you just don't have that relationship with your professor because you're teaching so many kids. And I just was terrified that suddenly the one thing that became like the biggest resource to me would go out the window, and Columbia absolutely proved that to be not true because I got to form relationships with a lot of my professors this semester. And they're going to be people that I'm going to have as contacts or potentially references for jobs, and I know that they'll be able to speak well about me. Like I found exactly what I was looking for, and again, so validating. validating. Really happy that I have that because, again, I don't know if a lot of my other friends have that. I'm hearing about their college experiences, and a lot of their college experiences have been very cookie cutter, and Columbia is not that for me, and I'm very happy that that's the case. I feel like this video has gone on for long enough. Essentially, I've had a great first semester of college, and it's really changed my view on things, and ultimately coming out of this first semester, I'm a much happier and confident person than I was before. I feel like I'm also more driven and feel more determined to create a schedule for myself, to get stuff done, to be accomplished, and to go after my dreams because I can make it happen. Like, I have the tools to make it happen, and I don't feel as confined to I have to get all A's and I have to be like zoned in, because I think really that mentality was killing me, and it feels nice to be liberated from all of that and just enjoy myself. And so looking back on the decade as a whole, it's hard to reflect because I started out this decade in 3rd grade, and so really this decade has been my entire life, or that which I can remember. So it's hard to reflect in the way that lots of other people are reflecting, but I've grown a lot in these past 10 years. Literally, I'm excited for the new decade because I think there's so many fun, exciting things that are in store for me, and I'm just really happy that I'm in a place that's allowing me to grow and thrive and be my own person, because I don't really think I had that before. If anything, I felt very suffocated and stifled. Here's to 2020 and to moments and memories and new doors opening, and to being more creative and ambitious, and to never giving up, to taking chances. So I think that's about it for this video. The only other thing that I really wanted to mention is that I started writing a book. I don't know if it's going anywhere, but at the beginning of the summer, after I had graduated high school, I had a lot of thoughts and feelings and emotions pent up inside of me, and so I just started to write them down. And one chapter turned into another, and now suddenly I have a 200-page book that's like 48K words. And it's only about like halfway done, maybe. I didn't really think that that was inside of me. And for me, that really felt like the beginning of a lot of things, because it proved to me that I can write creatively, that I'm not just good at writing essays and writing in a textbook style, that I can write and formulate a story, because for the most part, creatively, like, I'd never been able to do that. I would write a story, get stuck in a rut, and then delete all of it and move on. So it's been nice to make a story that I've been excited about writing and been passionate about. I don't know if it's gonna go anywhere. Ideally, I would like it to, but we shall see. I hope you all are having a wonderful end to 2019, and that you have a very wonderful start to the new decade, and that you go after all your goals, and that you have confidence to pursue whatever it is that inspires you. My name is Gabby. If you want to check me out on social media, all of my links are in the description. I hope you are having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time in the new one. Goodbye! I'm trying to find